So what's good, TMG fam? It's your boy L and I'm back with another reaction. How y'all feel? Welcome back to the channel. Salute. So listen, man, I love a good historical photo, especially one with a good backstory, but these will make you question everything. So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's check it out.
They say a picture paints 1,000 words, but these photos seem to be so unexplainable that they've remained a mystery for decades and even centuries. From a mysterious unidentified witness to an eerie family photo captured decades ago, here are 20 rare historical photos that scientists cannot explain. Number 20. Babushka Lady. This photo shows the Babushka Lady. It might seem like an ordinary photo of a woman, but her identity is one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in history. The story of the Babushka Lady begins on the 22nd of November in 1963. The Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas went into a state of chaos after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. In one of the photos captured that day, one lady stood out from the crowd, named for the distinctive headscarf she wore, reminiscent of those worn by elderly Russian women. One woman appeared to be holding a camera, possibly filming the very moment the shots that ended the life of JFK were fired. Despite the FBI's efforts to locate her and any potential film she might have taken, she was never identified and never made any effort to come forward. There are several reasons why the Babushka Lady is known. While most people in the vicinity reacted with shock and fear while running for cover, she remained remarkably composed, continuing to film, almost as if she knew the events that would transpire that day.
Now, fast forward to today. This is crazy in itself, right? But let me make it even crazier for y'all right now. Fast forward today. Everybody's seen what happened with the Donald Trump incident, right? Now, tell me, have y'all seen the video floating around that went viral of the lady behind the podium and the stage and how she got her camera out so quickly? Like, these are moments in time and people in time that we have no idea. Like the Babushka Lady, like, never came forward. They never figured out who she was or what she was doing there. And fast forward, we got another incident, and this lady seems a bit suspicious as well. Not saying she did anything wrong or not, but it just seems suspicious. See what I'm saying? Thought y'all should. I wanted to kind of connect that for y'all a little bit.
Unusual calmness has fueled speculation and numerous conspiracy theories about her true identity. Despite numerous investigations and the passage of decades, the identity of the Babushka Lady remains unknown. Some speculate she was a spy, while others suggest she might have been an ordinary citizen caught amidst the chaos. To this day, this photo remains one of history's biggest mysteries. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 19. A mother with 4 children for sale. This photo was captured in August 1948. A grim sign that reads 4 children for sale, along with her mother and her 4 children. This was the truth for some people living below the poverty line. This has been the truth since the 1900s to this day. The woman in this photo was named Lucille. She and her husband, Ray Chalifo, a jobless coal truck driver, were facing eviction from their Chicago apartment. With no other options, all they could do was sell their children in hopes of giving them a better chance at survival. The photograph quickly spread across newspapers nationwide, eliciting a massive public outcry and offers of help. Despite this, within 2 years, all of the Chalifo children, including the one Lucille was pregnant with in the photo, were no longer with their parents. With how sensational the photograph got, the public was keen on following the story of the children. The youngest, David, was adopted by a strict but kind couple, Harry and Luella McDaniel. Despite the challenges of her early life, David went on to serve 20 years in the military and worked as a truck driver. Rayanne and Milton were less fortunate. Sold for $2 to John and Ruth Zoeteman, they were subjected to a harsh life and were forced to work on the family's barn at such a young age. Their new parents even changed their names, stripping them of their identities and subjecting them to relentless cruelty. Despite the harrowing conditions, Rayanne, renamed Beverly, grew up to be a loving mother. Milton went on a rough path before achieving his peace as well. He struggled with the trauma, which manifested as violent outbursts during his teenage years, leading to his commitment to a mental hospital before he eventually moved to Arizona and started a family of his own. Number 18. Black Knight Satellite. This photo shows what's known as the Black Knight Satellite. Now, the Black Knight Satellite is a hodgepodge of conspiracy theories. The roots of this conspiracy begins in 1899. The famous inventor Nikola Tesla reported receiving strange radio signals at his Colorado Springs laboratory. Tesla believed these signals were from intelligent beings, possibly from Mars. Now, it's likely that Tesla's claims led to the persistence of the Black Knight satellite. Years after Tesla's claim, a Norwegian inventor named Jørgen Hals detected long-delayed echoes in 1927. These radio signals echoed back several seconds after transmission, but most of it was left unexplained. Decades later, UFO researcher Donald Keough claimed that the U.S. Air Force had detected 2 satellites orbiting Earth at a time when no country had the capability to launch satellites. This was followed by a series of sightings and detections over the years. In 1960, a radar used by the U.S. Navy picked up a quote-unquote dark tumbling object in polar orbit, which was unusual because most satellites were in equatorial orbit. The Department of Defense later explained it away as space debris from an Air Force satellite, but this explanation didn't satisfy everyone. The existence of the Black Knight satellite was already cemented long before this photo was captured. In 1998, however, this image was captured during the 1998 STS-88 mission to the International Space Station. It shows a dark, oddly shaped object floating in space, which some believe to be the Black Knight satellite. This was the image that further spread the story about the weird alien craft that has been allegedly spying on us since the 1900s. Despite NASA identifying this object as a thermal blanket lost during an extravehicular activity, its reputation as an alien spacecraft persisted. Number 17. Skunk Ape. This photo was sent anonymously to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office in 2000. It's known as the Myakka skunk ape, or simply the skunk ape. Now, this cryptid is said to be roaming the wilderness of Florida. It's often described as a large bipedal ape-like being covered in shaggy hair, and is said to emit an incredibly foul odor, likened to a mix of skunk and a wet dog. Sightings of this creature have been reported as far back as the early 20th century. One early sighting involved a creature leaping onto a car's running board before disappearing into the swamps. Another report from 1957 described an encounter where a massive, smelly ape disrupted a hunter's camp in the Everglades. But perhaps the turning point of the skunk ape's infamy began in the late 1990s and early 2000s. David Shealy, the self-proclaimed expert, claimed to have encountered a skunk ape as a child. This made him interested in its existence. Ever since, he has dedicated his life to documenting and researching this elusive cryptid. In 2000, Shealy captured what he claims is definitive video evidence of the skunk ape, showing a large, hairy figure moving swiftly through the swamps. Despite skepticism from the scientific community, Shealy remains convinced of the creature's authenticity. Number 16. A questionable relationship. In 1972, 2 skeletons were discovered at the Tepe Hassanlu site in northwest Iran. They were interred about 2,800 years ago, around 800 BCE. Ever since their discovery, their peace has been disturbed by questions. The 2 skeletons were nicknamed the Hassanlu lovers due to—
I was about to say, it looked like 2 lovers who died together, and one of them got a hole in their head, like they were shot in the head or something like that. You saw that? But for some of us, we want to go out with our mate. You know what I mean?
The position they were discovered in. The 2 were found lying in an intimate embrace, seemingly sharing a final kiss before their demise. As the city was set ablaze, the 2 found comfort lying in a grain bin as they shared their final breaths together. For years, the Hassanlu lovers became the symbol of eternal love. Yet a recent study broke the narrative surrounding these 2. Initially, it was believed that the skeletons belonged to one man and one woman. Recent research, however, seems to dictate otherwise. It seems like both skeletons are men. This ambiguity has fueled various theories about their relationship, ranging from romantic partners to family members. To this day, The true nature of the two skeletons' relationship continues to be a subject of debate and speculation.
That might be why they're in that grave then. Like, we still don't know how they handle things like that. It's accepted today more so than probably back then, right? And that's a question for me. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. They don't speak about that much. But it'd be interested to know how they handled those situations like that back then.
Number 15. Hin Lights. The Hin Lights are strange luminous phenomena observed in the Hin Valley in central Norway. These lights typically appear as bright orbs of varying colors: white, yellow, red, blue, and green. They can be seen both day and night and display a range of behaviors, from hovering in place to darting rapidly across the sky. What are these lights? What do they want? Do they signify something? And how are they formed? These questions continue to remain to this day. Number 14. PShaped Cryptids. In 2007, a resident from Fresno, California set up a security camera to investigate why his dogs were barking at night. What he found in the footage was both shocking and baffling. A pair of white, pants-like creatures gliding across his front yard. These creatures then became known as the Fresno Nightcrawlers. These cryptids are described as having extremely long legs with a minimal upper body, giving them the appearance of walking pants. They move smoothly and fluidly, which adds to their eerie, otherworldly presence. Typically, they appear white or light gray in the videos, enhancing their ghostly look. Some accounts describe them as 5 to 7 feet tall, although the quality of the footage makes it difficult to determine their exact size. Regardless of their size, however, these creatures will forever be recognized due to their shape, and since the first sighting, many more have been reported. Despite several sightings, whether the Fresno Nightcrawlers truly are cryptids or simply hoaxes remains unknown. Number 13. The Sway F Spaceman. If you were to guess what this photo shows, I bet you'd say it shows a child and an astronaut behind her, right? But then, how could that be? That's the mystery surrounding the Sway F Spaceman. This photo was captured on the 23rd of May back in 1964. Jim Templeton, a firefighter and amateur photographer from Carlisle, England, took a series of photographs of his 5-year-old daughter, Elizabeth, during a family outing to Burgh Marsh, overlooking the Sway Firth in Cumbria. This was among the developed photos. The photograph, which became known as the Sway F Spaceman, quickly garnered international attention. It was published in newspapers and examined by various experts, including Kodak, which confirmed that the image had not been tampered with. Some UFO enthusiasts and paranormal investigators suggested that the figure might be an extraterrestrial being or time traveler. However, today, more and more people believe that the astronaut in the background was nothing but her mother looking over the view. A person or an astronaut? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Number 12. A big mountain of bison skulls. There were a lot of macabre things that occurred in history. This photo is just one proof. This photograph was captured around 1892. It shows an enormous pile of bison skulls outside the Michigan Carbon Works in Rogueville, Michigan. You see, decades ago, bison were hunted and sought after in America, particularly in the northern region. At the time, a staggering 30 to 60 million bison ran in the region's wilderness. But by the late 1800s, their numbers were reduced to hundreds. By the time...
we could see why the number was reduced. Here they are right here. Like, open, shut, close, open, shut case right here, man. Like, why? This is eerie. This is eerily strange.
When this photograph was taken, the bison population had plummeted to just a few hundred individuals, including a small herd in Yellowstone National Park. This dramatic decline sparked early conservation efforts led by private citizens and later the U.S. government. Thanks to these initiatives, the bison population has rebounded to around 500,000 today, with approximately 30,000 living in protected areas and nature reserves. Number 11. Cooper family photo. No, this photograph isn't edited, or at least that's what the Cooper family claims. This photo is known as the falling body photo, or simply the Cooper family photo. Now, there's initially nothing wrong with this picture, with a family smiling happily. That's when you notice the silhouette of a body that seems to be falling from the roof on the left of the photo. This has led to numerous theories, ranging from paranormal activity to photographic manipulation. Some believe the photo captures a ghost or a spirit. Skeptics, however, argue that the photo is a hoax. Analysis suggests that the falling body might be the result of double exposure, a common photographic technique where two images are superimposed on each other. Despite many people's attempts to debunk the true nature of the Cooper family photo, the truth about this picture remains a mystery to this day. Number 10. Selling the people what they want. In the 19th century, especially following Napoleon's conquest of Egypt, Europeans developed a fervent fascination with all things Egyptian. This is a period known as Egyptomania. Of course, just like today, merchants and businessmen cater to what tourists call for. At the time, tourists wanted to buy something that was a piece of ancient Egypt itself, like, say, a mummy. Yes, you heard that right. Decades ago, there was a surge in the popularity of Egyptian artifacts, with mummies being among the most sought-after items. Wealthy Europeans and American tourists visiting Egypt could purchase mummies from street vendors, which, of course, should have been inappropriate. In the past, after purchasing a mummy, the wealthy would even carry out mummy unwrapping parties. These events were exactly what they sound like, gathering where a mummy would be unwrapped in front of an audience. These parties were popular among the elite, who viewed them as thrilling and exotic entertainment. But this is not the weirdest part. Some of these remains would even be ground into a powder called mumia and sold as a medicinal remedy, as it's believed to cure a variety of ailments. The sale of mummies went on until the late 19th century. Finally, the Egyptian government decided to step in and place laws to prevent the export of mummies and other ancient Egyptian artifacts. Number 9.
Glad they finally came to their senses. And you know what? That just kind of cured me. Like, every now and again, I have the urge to be like, you know what? If I ever do come across somebody with a time machine, certain areas of time I want to go back to and just visit and see and just experience. It's starting to break me out of that a little bit. Now, I'm starting to be like, you know what? Maybe I just need to stay where I'm at and deal with the issues I got here.
Cow shoes used to hide human footprints. As I always say, desperation is the mother of invention. Who would have thought that people would ever need cow print shoes? Between 1920 and 1933, shoes that left prints in the shape of cow hooves were all the rage. This is all because of one reason: the Prohibition. During Prohibition in the United States, the manufacture, sale, and transport of alcohol were banned. This led to a rise in illicit activities, including the production of moonshine, a high-proof distilled spirit. Moonshiners often operated in remote areas to avoid detection, but they still faced the challenge of hiding their tracks from the authorities, who could follow their footprints to the hidden stills. And so, moonshiners needed to be creative. To outsmart the police, some moonshiners started using cow shoes. These clever devices consisted of wooden blocks carved to resemble cow hooves attached to metal strips that could be strapped onto their boots. When worn, these shoes would leave prints that looked like cow tracks instead of human footprints, misleading law enforcement officers and making it harder for them to locate the illegal stills. Number 8. Hook Island Sea Monster. For decades, it's been believed that a giant sea monster is residing off the coast of Hook Island, Queensland, Australia. This monster is known as the Hook Island Sea Monster. This creature was first seen back in December 1964. This monster is allegedly a giant creature with dark skin. Now, not many believed in the existence of this creature until Robert Laserick and his family managed to capture a photo of the alleged sea monster. The family described the monster as a creature measuring around 75 to 80 feet long, with a smooth black body. That's exactly what this photo seems to be showing. However, without any other proof, the identity and the very existence of the Hook Island Sea Monster remains a mystery. Number 7. Inflatable and Decoy Tanks. Now here's one of the things that most people don't know about the Second World War. One of the most valuable parts of the Army was none other than the Ghost Army. Officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army was established in 1944 and comprised about 1,100 men. However, unlike other troops, This group didn't only include soldiers, it included artists, designers, and engineers. You see, this troop was meant to deceive the opposing forces. Their mission was to create elaborate ruses that would deceive the enemy about the size and location of Allied forces. This unit was instrumental in several key operations, using a blend of inflatable tanks, fake radio transmissions, and sound effects to create the illusion of large armies where there were none. In fact, during the lead up to D-Day, the Allies misled the Germans about the true landing site. They created a fictitious 1st U.S. Army group in southeast England, complete with inflatable Sherman tanks, dummy landing craft, and false radio traffic. This deception made the Germans believe that the main invasion would occur at Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy, contributing significantly to the success of the actual landings. The Ghost Army contributed to the Allies' other successes, which affected the overall outcome of the Second World War. It's astounding how the Ghost Army even came into existence in the first place. Imagine how history would change had the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops ceased to exist. Number 6.
See, bro? See how being smarter than your opponent helps you out? Like, something so simple, but yet so effective, bro. Like, kudos to whoever, like, thought that was brilliant. Super brilliant.
6. The cadaver who attended a trial. In the 9th century, did you know that a lifeless person was exhumed, dressed in robes, and propped on a throne to face his charges? This was the trial of Cadaver Synod, a time when a deceased pope was put on trial. The Cadaver Synod occurred in January 897 AD, during a turbulent time for the Catholic Church. Pope Stephen VI, the man behind this grisly trial, had a vendetta against his predecessor, Pope Formosus. Formosus had died several months earlier, but that didn't stop Stephen VI from seeking revenge. Now, I won't get into the nitty-gritty, but basically, Pope Stephen VI believed that Formosus disobeyed church laws and committed perjury, and so a trial for him was held in the Basilica of St. John Lateran in Rome. Formosus' decaying corpse was exhumed, dressed in papal garments, and placed on a throne. A deacon was appointed to speak on behalf of the dead pope, but the proceedings were more of a spectacle than a legitimate trial. Pope Stephen VI, filled with rage, screamed accusations at the lifeless body, demanding answers to charges that included ambitious usurpation of the papacy. Formosus was found guilty, stripped of his papal vestments, and had the 3 fingers used for blessings cut off. His body was initially buried in a common grave, but was later exhumed again and thrown into the Tiber River. According to legend, the body washed up on the riverbank and began to perform miracles, which only fueled public outrage against Stephen VI. Needless to say, the trial didn't go as Stephen VI had planned. In the end, the trial was one of the reasons he became imprisoned, leading to his death. And that's the really bizarre story of Cadaver Synod. And believe me, even researchers can't explain the logic behind this rather odd trial. Number 5. Project Pigeon, the ambitious project of developing a pigeon-controlled guided bomb. The war was a time of destruction, but at the same time, it marked the invention of a lot of innovation for the war. Among the many attempts to create the next innovative way of dealing with conflict was Project Pigeon. And yes, it's not a quirky name assigned to a project. This project dealt with literal pigeons. Renowned psychologist B.F. Skinner, who you might know from his works in behaviorism, decided to give a hand to the U.S. military, which at the time had the problem of accurately guiding missiles to their targets. Skinner proposed an unconventional solution, using pigeons to pilot missiles. This project, known as Project Pigeon, sought to harness the pigeon's excellent vision and cognitive abilities to steer bombs accurately. Needless to say, it was an ambitious project. The concept was straightforward but ingenious. Skinner designed a special nose cone for the missile, which housed 3 pigeon-sized cockpits equipped with tiny screens. These screens displayed an image of the target, and the pigeons were trained to peck at the target image to keep it centered. The pigeon's pecking movements would then be transmitted into signals that adjusted the missile's course, keeping it on target. Training the pigeons was no small feat. Skinner used operant conditioning, a method he pioneered to train the birds. He rewarded them with hemp seeds for pecking at the correct targets. Over time, The pigeons learned to associate the target image with the reward, making them highly effective at keeping the missile on course. To improve reliability, Skinner used 3 pigeons simultaneously, ensuring that if one bird made an error, the other 2 would correct it. Despite the project's innovative approach and some initial successes in tests, Project Pigeon faced significant skepticism. The National Defense Research Committee funded the project with $25,000, but military officials found the concept too eccentric to take seriously. And so, the project was ultimately canceled in October 1944 as electronic guidance systems became more reliable and practical. Today, this short-lived project is just one of the many bizarre science endeavors in history. Number 4.
That was actually another brilliant idea. I would have loved to see how that played out. I think it would have actually worked, bro. You could clearly see how the pigeon kept up with the target, fam. It was like, some things you just gotta take a leap of faith on, bro. Imagine what type of advantage you would have had over, man, golly, bro. I would have loved to know. That's messing with me now.
That one time people used dynamite on an inflated whale. On the 9th of November in 1970, a 45-foot, 8-ton sperm whale washed ashore near Florence, Oregon. The carcass quickly became a problem due to its size, the stench, and the potential health hazards. The Oregon State Highway Division, tasked with removing the whale, consulted with munitions experts from the U.S. Navy and decided on a rather unconventional solution: blowing it up with dynamite. What could possibly go wrong, right? On November the 12th, a crowd gathered to witness the event, standing about a quarter mile away from the carcass. Assistant District Highway Engineer George Thornton planned to use half a ton of dynamite, expecting the explosion to scatter the whale's remains into small pieces that could be consumed by seagulls and other scavengers. Needless to say, nothing went as planned. When the dynamite was detonated, the explosion sent a massive column of sand, blubber, and debris 100 feet into the air. Instead of small pieces, large chunks of whale blubber rained down, with one piece crushing a parked car. Spectators, initially awed by the explosion, quickly scrambled for cover as the remains fell from the sky. No one was injured, but the mess? Let's just say it's one of the things you wouldn't want to ever experience in person. Number 3. Ernest Hemingway's Six-Toed Cats. Ernest Hemingway, the legendary American writer, was not only known for his literary works, but also for his fondness for cats. His love affair with these felines began in the 1930s when he was given a white polydactyl, which means six-toed cat, named Snow White, by a ship's captain. Polydactyl cats, also known as Hemingway cats, have a genetic mutation that causes them to have extra toes on their paws. This trait, while unusual, does not harm the cats and adds a distinctive charm to their appearance. Hemingway's home in Key West, now a museum, continues to be the home of around 40 to 50 cats, many of which are descendants of Snow White. About half of these cats have the unique polydactyl trait, carrying on the genetic legacy of Hemingway's original pet. These cats roam freely around the property, which makes it not only a haven for those who enjoyed Hemingway's works, but also for cat lovers. The cats are cared for meticulously by the museum staff, who ensure they receive regular veterinary checkups, vaccinations, and any medical treatment they might need. The cats even have their own cemetery on the grounds, where generations of Hemingway cats are laid to rest. Each cat is given a name, often inspired by famous people, continuing a tradition Hemingway himself started. Number 2. A gas-resistant baby stroller. Imagine shopping for a stroller, and one of your options happens to be this. It doesn't really look like a stroller, if you ask me. However, amidst the terror of war and looming conflict, parents in the 1930s had no choice but to forego aesthetics and choose what they believed was the safest option for their children. This includes considering these gas-resistant prams, or baby strollers. During the interwar period, the horrors of chemical warfare from World War I were still fresh in the minds of Europeans. Poison gases like chlorine, phosgene, and mustard gas had wreaked havoc on the battlefields, and there was a genuine fear that future conflicts could bring these terrifying weapons to civilian areas. As tensions rose in the 1930s with a looming threat of World War II, the public began preparing for the worst. This preparation included equipping civilians with gas masks and developing protective devices for the most vulnerable, babies. These strollers were designed to protect infants from potential gas attacks. They were essentially small mobile gas chambers with a window for the baby to look out and a hand pump to provide filtered air. The idea was to seal the baby inside, shielding them from toxic fumes while still allowing them to breathe safely. But did it work? Well, they did. Although they fell out of fashion pretty quickly because they're somewhat morbid in appearance, in fact, they are even often compared to being a small meal coffin on wheels. And now it's time for today's topic. It was in the 1800s when photography made decent progress. Heliography was invented, and in this process, 8 hours of exposure was needed to capture a still image. An entire century has passed, and while photography has made decent progress, it's far from what we can capture today. And yet, in the 1900s, one photograph was captured. A photo so special, it changed the course of photography. The mystery of the 1903 photograph is shocking. What you see will give you goosebumps. This photo was captured an entire century ago, and it features the Kexholm Guard Infantry Regiment stationed in Warsaw. This photo merely measures about 42 by 96 centimeters, and yet it captures the faces of some 1,200 men. Even if you zoom in and enhance the photo, the level of detail that such a small image captured is astounding. To this day, just how exactly did the photographer George R. Lawrence manage to accomplish such a feat? The question of how or why this intriguing photo was captured remains a mystery to this day.
I need to question, was it a painting instead of a photo? Because, yeah, I couldn't tell you how he did that. It's a lot of people for back then in a photo.
Number 1. The Unidentified Tank Man. On June 5, 1989, the Tiananmen Square in China was filled with pro-democracy protesters. What started as a demonstration became a forum to protest corruption and inflation happening in the national government. Later on, the situation escalated, resulting in the government taking action against the protesters in Tiananmen Square. Among the protesters, a single man stood out, a man later known as Tank Man. Wearing a white shirt and carrying 2 shopping bags, Tank Man became a symbol of resistance against oppression. He first signaled the tanks to stop with a raised hand, then climbed onto the lead tank, attempting to communicate with the crew inside. Despite the tank trying to maneuver around him, Tank Man continually repositioned himself to block its path. This standoff lasted for several minutes before 2 unidentified individuals pulled him away. The identity of Tank Man remains a mystery. Various reports have suggested he was a student named Wang Weilin, but Chinese authorities have never confirmed this. In fact, the Chinese government has claimed they do not know who he is or what happened to him. Tank Man's act of defiance was captured by several photographers, with Jeff Widener's photo becoming the most famous. Despite severe censorship within China, the image of Tank Man standing up to the tanks has become an enduring symbol of courage and the struggle for freedom worldwide.